There were stark reminders this week on the threat of climate change. Coming off the hottest July on record, federal agencies confirmed that the last 5 years are the warmest ever recorded. And a new report from the UN warns that the world's food supply is now at risk. Our chief White House correspondent Karl recently spoke with Al Gore about the challenges ahead.
There's both bad news and good news. The problem's getting worse faster than we are mobilizing to solve it. However, there's also good news. We now have an upsurge in climate activism at the grassroots in all 50 states here in this country and in every country in the world.
What do you say to those that say that even if the United States gets to zero carbon emissions, it's going to only have a limited impact because if China, India, the developing world doesn't change, it's not going to address the problem?
Well, first of all, it's certainly true that it's a global crisis that requires a global response with every nation being involved. But secondly, we are still in an era of history where the United States of America and only the United States of America can provide the necessary leadership to rally nations around the world to do the right thing.
You know the argument, because you've heard it many times, of conservatives who say, look, why should the United States bear the brunt of this?
A word like brunt implies that it's a painful and costly transition,
right,
when in fact, this is the best way to create millions of new jobs. This is where the economic growth of the future is to be found. So it's not as if we are taking on this huge burden. We're doing things that are benefiting us in other ways anyway.
You said back in 2006 that the world would reach the point of no return if drastic measures weren't taken to reduce greenhouse gases by 2016. So here we are. Is it already too late?
Well, some changes, unfortunately, have already been locked in place. Sea level increases are going to continue no matter what we do now. But we can prevent much larger sea level increases, much more rapid increases in temperatures. The heat wave was in Europe. Now it's in the Arctic, and we're seeing huge melting of the ice there. So the warnings of the scientists 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, unfortunately were accurate. Here's the good news, Jonathan. In the Democratic contest for the presidential nomination this year, virtually all of the candidates are agreed that this is either the top issue or one of the top two issues.
Are you satisfied with the way they're talking about climate change?
I would always like to see more time devoted to it, but I have to say, yes, I think that it's great that there are so many of these candidates who are really making it their top priority and who are really focusing on introducing bold plans. I'm really encouraged by that.
Do you agree with those who say Jay Inslee's put out the gold standard plan?
I'm not going to get into parsing the different plans. I will tell you, Jay's a great friend of mine. I'm really proud of what he's doing, and I think he's put forward a fantastic plan.
Governor Inslee said that Joe Biden has, quote, a middling plan that's not going to save us. But is Biden's plan a middling plan? He would get to zero emissions by 2050. Is that enough?
Well, look, again, I'm not going to critique the specifics in each candidate's plans.
I don't know if there's anybody in political life who knows Biden as well as you do or knows his situation as well as you do. A vice president running for president, you served in the Senate together. So what is your advice to Joe Biden running as a former vice president?
Well, several of the candidates have called to ask for advice, and I give it privately when they ask. I'm not going to get into public advice to any of these candidates.
But you dealt with exactly the same situation, which is you get to run on or get attacked for everything that the president that you were vice president for did. How do you deal with it? How did you deal with that?
That sounds surprisingly similar to the question you asked me just before this one.
It's not. It's a little different. It's about your experience. You ran as a vice president.
Well,
and you had a president that was complicated.
I'm not saying it's not a great question. I'm just saying that I'm going to dodge your question.
You're just going to dodge it.
Well, I just don't want to get into picking each individual candidate and laying out advice for them.
So before we go, a couple things about Donald Trump. You obviously met with him during the transition.
Yeah, and had conversations with him after he went into the Oval Office as well.
Did you think you could get through to him?
I thought it was worth trying. I did think at the time that there was a chance he might change on climate when presented with the facts. I was clearly wrong about that. I think it was worth the effort to see, but I was wrong. He doesn't want to change on it.
Would you talk to him again?
Oh, gosh. Look, if a sitting president of the United States calls you and wants to talk about an issue, I think the answer has to be yes, but I would do so without any expectation of reasonableness or responsiveness.
You saw impeachment up close, very close.
Yeah.
What do you make of those who say it's time to begin impeachment proceedings?
My own view is that not seeking accountability for what appear to be credible allegations that crimes were committed, meaningful crimes, runs the risk of normalizing that behavior. I think that what's going on now with Chairman Nadler is the right course of action, and that is to gather evidence and begin an inquiry to see what other evidence is available, and then make that a decision to go forward when the time comes.
Mr. Vice President, thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.